What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Blaze once again bringing you another Korean solo queue matchup that actually involves a fair number of quite famous people you might actually be aware of. So let's actually start on the blue side. We have SK Telecom T1K's Faker actually playing on his secondary account as Hide Bush. Actually getting into a little bit of trouble here. He's playing as Thresh, obviously, and he might have to... No, there's the flash. Okay. I was just about to say he might have to blow that flash. So before I can even finish introductions, as is the usual case, we are already getting into fights. Of course, Ambition is actually playing on his primary account as Zed. And he is, of course, the mid laner for CJ Blaze. And then there is the jungler for T1K, Bengi, also on the blue side playing as Jungle Fiddlesticks. On the opposing team, we have Translogic, which is actually Easyhoon, the mid laner for T1S. And we have Bang, who is the ADC for T1S. Kind of a T1K versus T1S matchup here, with a couple of other friends thrown in just to help out. You also have Janna, who is about to get into a little bit of trouble here together with Bang. And Janna is actually the support for the Falcons. And then there's Lita or Lita. I'm not really sure what he prefers to be called. But that used to actually be the jungler for CJ Frost. And now that all the introductions are finished, let's actually go ahead and get into the thick of the game here. Nothing really huge going on. A couple of flashes blown here and there. But nothing really major. Everything should be back fairly soon here. And a bit of actually aggression coming in from Bang towards the Sivir here. But nothing major. They knew they had the ward there, knowing that Thresh wasn't going to be around. So they were going to go ahead and actually just put a little bit of pressure down there. Easyhoon trying to get some damage back onto the Fizz. Trying to get a little bit of return on a trade. Fizz actually going a little bit aggressive again. This is kind of an interesting matchup. One of the reasons why Ryze isn't picked so often, or just sort of a mindless pick, even though he becomes so strong in the late game, is because, like most champions that hyper carry in the late game, he's fairly weak in the early game. That being said, Fizz's early game and his ability to punish Ryze during the early game is not huge either. He really needs to wait until he gets level 6. So for now, Ryze is going to attempt to just kind of push him out by getting some damage in on him. Meanwhile, on this bottom lane between Faker, Bang, and again XD, the support for the Falcons. Again, a little bit of just sort of trading and pushing back and forth. Gank coming in the top lane, but it's not going to actually lead to anything, it doesn't look like. No, Bengi will actually just go ahead and back out of that. He's not going to want to take too much damage from that turret at such an early level. A little bit more aggression coming in the bottom lane. Sivir is actually dealing a fair amount of damage onto Bang, but he's actually going to take a fair amount of damage back from XD this time. Faker attempting to try to sort of stand in between, but he's actually not being targeted. Bang and XD actually doing a fairly good job of ignoring him so that they can actually deal. Okay, wow, the hook actually misses after actually managing to land a flay, and this, Easyhoon, is your end. Welcome to die. That will be the very first blood going up to the Fizz up there, with of course Bengi's help. Now Ambition actually getting a little bit aggressive, and that's going to be the end of the Annie. You were not meant for this world, sweet child. So, a little bit of early aggression, which of course is almost always due to the fact that one person gets the advantage in lane and level. You have to learn how to pressure those advantages. Another hook missing from Faker. And here I thought he was all about skill shots. Oh, senpai. And yeah, it's usually, these early kills are usually meant because of the... Wow, Faker getting a little bit caught out. He does manage to get the flay, but do they have enough damage? He gets the exhaust, but all it's going to do is actually force them back. He actually doesn't get the kill. And now, because they have about 200, 300 health actually, they're fairly easy targets for the jungle to come down here and actually just go ahead and gank them both and kill them, which in fact, Lida, again, it sort of depends on who's saying his name, but he is actually making his way down here on this Lee Sin. We'll go ahead and see in a moment if he actually decides to go in. It looks like he's trying to ward hop over onto the river so that he won't be noticed, but he is actually spotted out. There is a ward there. The lantern not going to be enough. It's going to slow them. And still more slows coming out. Is Faker the first to die? He's not going to die. And actually, because they put so much pressure onto him, they actually didn't kill Sivert either. Just very, very questionable gank there. They probably should have actually just focused down on Sivert, who actually had fairly lower amounts of health than Thresh did. But at this point, well, that was very unfortunate. You don't get a redo, unfortunately, unless you are Easyhoon, who gets once again doved underneath his top turret. He will go down again. And again, that's just sort of the problem with Rise. This early game is so poor. Lyra now going back in against Ambition. Ambition having to run, but Bengi's here. They don't want any part in this fight, though. They're just going to try to get Ambition out safely, which they do. And now they're just going to back out. It looks like they will actually just go back into lane and the jungle, respectively, for both Ambition and Bengi. But, well, that was unfortunate there for, actually for both players. And now we go back into a bit of a neutral game. Sort of slow down on everything that's happening, although Faker actually wants to hook onto... He sees Bang actually hanging out here by himself. He knows that the Janna isn't here because of her lack of sort of hanging out in this whole entire matchup, and now the fight's actually sort of starting back up in the bottom lane. Nothing huge is going to come of it, though. Janna's disengage is, well, it's Janna-like. That is the only way to describe the incredible level of disengage that Janna actually has. Now Bang is actually going fairly in on this Sivert. That's going to be an all-in. The Lantern is not going to be enough to save him. Faker, you are also going to go down here, sir. You cannot escape so many slows. And that's going to be the end of that. Meanwhile, a little bit of action in the mid lane, but nothing major. Tibbers does come out just to try to deflect some of this damage that Zed is putting down onto Annie, but it does look like Annie's actually just going to recall. And Zed actually starting to sort of do fairly well in this lane against the Annie. But of course, being Ambition, you wouldn't expect anything different. His CS is actually fairly lower than the Annie's. Is again another all-in. Who's going to take it this time? It does look like Easyhoon is getting fairly low, and he does go down. Although, I feel like a little bit more damage from Rise, and that could have actually turned the other way from that lifesteal on his ult. But, well, we don't get to redo that one with a little bit more AP. Unfortunately, you take what you got, and for Easyhoon, that happens to just be a third death in this game, and he is now so far behind in CS, he's definitely not having a good time up there. Getting back to the mid lane matchup, though, because it is such a long-range champion and Annie versus this Zed, Zed should actually be losing that by a huge amount as far as the potential for Annie to just poke him fairly easy. Another fight in the bottom lane. A hook does actually land from Faker this time. There goes the flay, and there is the fear, and there is no coming back from that. Unfortunately, XD, that is your end. And yet another kill going over to the blue side. That does actually make the gold almost a 1k differential there, which early on in the game is actually fairly good. An ult coming in, and then a flash from Bengi. Faker gets the hook, and bang, you are not escaping. That is another kill for the blue side, and definitely well above the 1,000 gold mark there. The mid lane, again, just sort of a little bit of the back and forth. Annie should be able to poke Zed early on, just kind of poke him out of the lane with such a long distance, and whenever Zed sort of tries to go all in, there is the all in from Annie, though, and this should be the end of Zed. In fact, it will be. The burn coming in to just sort of finish him off over time from the Tibbers there. And Lyda comes in to do actually a reverse gank this time onto the top lane. Almost gets himself killed. Has to blow his flash just to be able to land a safeguard onto Easyhoon. Easyhoon sort of a bit of a betrayal there. Just kind of leaves him there. Doesn't actually help him get the safeguard out. But all's well that ends well, and suddenly well, not a kill, but an assist going back onto Easyhoon in that top lane. At least it'll slow down the Fizz and the way that he's actually sort of getting huge at this point. As for the mid lane, Annie, in my opinion, should actually be able to sort of bully Zed out early on, which is what I've been trying to say as all these fights continue to pick up. And then because of the stun, she's able to sort of just, again, the stun is actually fairly long range. Another ult and a turret hit coming in for Bang, but so many pushbacks going on to Faker, it's going to stop and disengage that fight. So much disengage coming in from this red side bot lane. A gank actually coming in here. But this time it's actually Fizz and it looks like Easyhoon who are actually going to be having a little bit of fun up there in the top lane. Not too much damage dealt back and forth, just sort of trying to defend their wards. But the targeted stun is such long range from Annie that anytime that Ambition actually tries to walk up to land an ult or any sort of poke, you should be able to stun him and not take anything from that. But unfortunately, the matchup has actually been going fairly one-sided towards Ambition. Yes, they're 1-1 each, but again, Zed's gonna begin to actually start to build the items that he needs here to sort of be more effective in these fights than Annie is. And once that happens, well, then it's going to be a very, very big problem for Annie indeed. This blue side bot lane here trying to defend this pink ward. And they see by, of course, the fact that when they started to walk up towards the pink ward to defend it, Janna walked away. They know that XD had a ward there, and so in fact they find it, take it out. It's these little sort of unknown knowns that you can see. Oh, Faker almost getting a little bit aggressive there onto a gank, but it's actually going to be Bengi who is actually going to... It looks like he's going to dive this turret onto Easyhoon. He is. He's not moving around, though. He probably should deal some damage. He actually managed... No, he doesn't manage to live. Unfortunately, he dies. He probably should have tried to deal a little bit of damage before just kind of standing there and not taking the turret. I understand the thinking was, okay, if I just stand here, I'll absorb the turret hits so that the Fizz can actually go ahead and finish off Easyhoon. But Easyhoon had so much health and turned on his ult to be able to actually lifesteal a little bit more of that health. And in the end, that was actually a fairly bad gank coming in from Bengi. They do actually spot out where Lita is, but they're not going to be able to do much about it. They don't have enough people there. And yet another all-in, this time a flay into the box. It definitely gets some damage onto Bang, but now XD actually flashes and pushes the Sivir backwards, but unfortunately when you have a Thresh, you probably want to focus the Thresh. Because, wow, a flash having to be blown by Faker, and they're both going to run as far as they can from that. Yet another gank onto Easyhoon in the top lane. Easyhoon, so sorry for you, brother, but you are most definitely the target this game. And as for this bot lane, just having to blow that flash to actually be able to make it out, because that tornado was actually going to come in and hit for maybe the remaining damage that they needed. XD may have been able to pick up a kill. So Faker having to blow that flash. The unfortunate thing about some of these ganks that are happening in bot lane is that they continuously focus Sivir. And unfortunately, when you have Thresh, one of the things that you really get is, well, actually fortunate for the blue team, unfortunately for the red team, is that escape. It's that ability to throw out the lantern. So when you're ganking, it's like when you're fighting against a Shen. Of course, when you're ganking, wow, a hook coming in onto Annie, and now a lantern to take Ambition into the fight. However, Annie turns it around with the ult that's actually going to hit both Faker and Ambition. Ambition with not enough health to survive is going to go down. Now Bengi's just trying to get out, tries to save Faker. It's not going to be enough, so now he's just going to be running away. And back to what I was saying, when you're playing against this Shen, you don't gank other people because it's just going to be a Shen coming in onto them to save them with his ult. So you actually gank the global itself to make sure he can't actually use that to save somebody else's life. The same thing goes for bot lanes when you're playing with a Thresh. You might as well just actually try to kill the Thresh instead, or he's just going to save somebody else. Again, Easyhoon, I'm sure he's thinking this isn't even funny anymore. At this point, guys, just stop, please. Just stop. This is unfair. It's slightly... It was funny at the beginning. Now it's just kind of mean-spirited at this point. He is 1-6-1. About 24 CS behind. Another hook coming in from Faker onto XD. Lanterns coming in all around. Bengi ults in. And that's going to be the end of XD. Or are they going to go in for Lita as well? It does look like they're actually going to dive it. That is the end of Lita also. And that is maybe this mid turret? No, it doesn't look like they're hard pushing it. Bengi's actually going towards the top turret. No, he's actually going to go take a look at red to see if he can actually take that. But he does spot the Annie sort of hanging out around in that area. It's not going to be a good fight for him, so he's going to back out. Oh, but now that he's got the Fizz to actually help him out here, he might actually attempt to take this red. They are indeed actually trying to take it as we speak. But a bit of a fight's actually starting to gear up in this mid lane. But Zed, being Zed, Ambition's just going to be able to actually get out of there using his shadows. Okay, and sort of going back to the neutral game once again at this point. One tower down for each side. The gold still, however, actually swinging a little bit more towards the red side. And now that the Drake has been taken and a couple more kills have been taken to actually even that up. And a lot of this is actually due sort of to the fact that Annie does actually have more CS than Ambition, and Bang actually has more CS than the Sivir on the opposing team. Of course, Faker has been helping the Sivir actually to farm using his support item there. But I feel like a lot of those actually went sort of just towards Faker when he was in lane alone. So a fair bit of sort of a disadvantage as far as CS is concerned. However, because of the massive number of kills, the gold is actually fairly even. 26,000 to, well, 26.1 thousand at this point. It's 26.3 thousand. The atomization actually coming in from both sides is actually fairly expected to what we would think to have. Unfortunately, at 17 minutes, Easyhoon actually still does not have his Rod of Ages, which is actually going to need to set his build back a lot. It's going to take him 10 more minutes to actually stack that up, and if he gets that by 20 minutes, that means he won't actually be able to do something until about the 28 to 30 minute mark, which is actually fairly late into the game considering how explosively snowbally the blue side can get, having that Fizz and actually having that Zed. Assassins are always having a huge potential for snowballing. Faker actually wanting to take this turret is willing to tank a hit if Sivir will just hit it, but Sivir does not seem to be with that idea. Ambition actually coming in onto Bang here. That's the ult on Bengi. Excuse me, Bang actually just goes ahead and ults and jumps away. We're getting a teleport coming in from Easyhoon. Ambition with no health. Oh, actually, the shield manages to save his life. However, Lyra actually comes in. Ambition manages to get away, but XD goes ahead and ignites him. That's going to be a kill for him. Faker actually now going down. Again, another couple of ults being blown on getting him to actually get pushed backwards. An ult coming in from Sivir just to make sure they don't get engaged on. Now Bang actually down here together with Sivir to actually try and stop the push. On the other end, Fizz trying to push top lane isn't going to be able to actually take it as Annie is up there with him now. And Annie and Fizz actually both the same level. Fizz doesn't really want to fight that. And so back to a neutral game we go, although Fizz is still actually in a fair bit of trouble if Easyhoon manages to catch up to him here. They don't actually see him. Now they do. They will see him now with this ward here. They're trying to actually take out Annie before any of them actually go down, but that's not going to happen. Bengi does actually end up coming in, Annie is still fairly low and still taking damage, but Bengi is actually going to be the one going down. Can't eat enough of these souls from the enemy team here. Bang actually getting a little bit aggressive underneath the turret. Does take a couple of hits, but it's going to survive. And that is another turret for Red side, who's actually getting a fair bit ahead now. They're actually 3,000 gold ahead, and they're going to go ahead and try and push down a couple more lanes if they get the chance here. Actually, Bang's going to be the only one pushing. The remaining of the red team looks like they're going to be recalling and using the money that they've acquired here through these pushes. Janet going the usual, or actually it's Steve going the usual Janet build at this point. Sort of going in for the, wow, Ambition getting a little bit aggressive onto the turret without any creeps there. Almost pays with it with his life. Takes one too many turret hits there and isn't actually able to turn onto Lita. Or Ambition again going in. That's going to be the end of him, but actually they don't target him early enough before he actually manages to get the ult. Fizz actually manages his ult. He's not going to be able to pick that up. Lita comes in to actually get another kill, and Fizz is desperately trying to run away. Oh, another kill going on to Annie, but unfortunately having pushed as far as Annie did, that's going to be a death for Annie as well. This time it goes on to Sivir. And just a bunch of chaotic, crazy, sort of unlikely fights going in. And just really, I guess, sort of sloppily played, but of course they're not really communicating. Obviously this is solo queue as opposed to actual team matchups. But even just in the way that you would expect sort of Ambition to have just asked for help taking that turret in mid, if you're just going to push it down by yourself and just tank it, you should probably get a little bit of help from somebody. You can always type that in chat, but just sort of going in solo by himself. Started off a series of bad events there that really got them punished. Faker pinging out the wards, which he actually couldn't finish. He actually killed 2 wards using the same red trinket, but then could not finish the third. Oh, the gank coming in from Bengi and Faker onto XD, but it's not going to be enough now that they see Annie coming in here. They're terrified of that ult actually coming out, and there it is. Tibbers comes out. Again, Janna manages to survive, and it's time. It's Bengi that goes down. Sort of a half-assed fight there. They knew they didn't want to fight it because they were terrified of the Annie ult, but then they decided to actually go back into it anyways, and the thing they were terrified of actually ended up happening, and they still ended up dying from it. Managed to not pick up that kill. And again, Faker coming in with the trinket cooldown is going to go ahead and pick up these 2 wards now that he has that cooldown. And the Vision actually being won over by the blue side here. You can see that some of those wards are actually starting to push into the side of the red jungle. They're actually just sort of slowly walking their wards forward. No point in littering wards all over your opponent's jungle if they're just going to come in and actually destroy all of them and, well, manage to just gain the gold from them. But back to the neutral game it is. And we actually have the Rod of Ages coming in finally for Easyhoon. That'll help him eventually, but at this point in the game, he's still going to be fairly behind. And so you see him going about his business, trying to farm jungle, top lane, bot lane as much as he can on his own. His team giving him free farm so that he can turn this around and begin to actually have a bit of damage. Oh, Ambition looking like he wanted to go in there a little bit. He's going to think better of it. That was actually a fairly good decision, considering that there was a Janna actually coming in to help. Pink ward being taken out by Bengi here. And again, everything calms down, everything slows down. Ambition on the split push on his own isn't really being answered. Annie and Lita actually were on their way up there, but it's not going to be for anything. Ambition does manage to back out. No wards, however, on the northern jungle there. So Ambition is not safe doing the split push. They definitely could collapse on him if they wanted to. We'll see if they decide to. It does look like they're about to decide to. Ambition has to flash over the wall, but Bang follows it up. Oh, the ult manages to push him away and save his life, but Ambition turning around to chuck one extra shuriken will get him killed. Sivir having to blow the ult to escape. Another engage coming in from the red side. And with so much CC, so much knockup, so much ability to follow, they're definitely going to go ahead and pick up the kill on Faker. It looks like they're going to go back for the Baron instead of going to take this mid turret. The wave just isn't up there with them, and with Fizz behind him, taking the... Oh, wow, a flash Rune Prison onto Bengi could secure them some kills here. Maybe not. It looks like they're going to rush these down. Sivir is going to be the one that gets taken out. The ping's coming in to Fizz here that he is up there by himself. But this isn't going to be enough to save Annie, is it? It is! Annie does manage to live, which is incredible. That should have been the end of Annie. But she manages to survive. Bengi now trying to go for her sneaky still isn't even going to survive the 1v1 fight. So he won't ever manage to take this, and this surely should be the end of this game at this point. The Baron on all 5 people. Faker fighting Tibbers instead of Annie is going to get taken out as well. And that is most definitely the end of this game here. It would take a massive throw by this red side to ever make it back. And I just don't see that happening. Split push Zed is, of course, obviously very strong. It's actually most characters. But in this particular case, the problem is that the woods just haven't been there to defend Bengi. We'll say Bengi was blowing the ult to farm. Questionable ult, but we'll just go ahead and chalk it up to he was using it to farm. We won't tell if he doesn't too. Again, the warding just hasn't been there on the blue side for Ambition to go and do his split push thing and be safe while doing it. So many Zanya's hourglasses, though, coming in from both sides. Actually, 3 in all of these members here. And this time, the dragon being started up by the blue side. The red side could definitely punish this. The Baron buff together with the 5 members coming down would definitely blow up this 4-man Baron attempt. But they are way too late to begin this fight. Janna caught out in a bit of trouble. Ambition gets pushed back. He's going to go down to the push by... No, he actually survives, but now he's going to go down to Easyhoon. Sivir also goes down to Annie. And now Fizz is on the run. He cannot afford to even stop for 1 second or he will be obliterated. This mid turret is surely going to go down. With Tibbers tanking this. Tibbers, good guy Tibbers, will lose his life to tank these turrets. And now Lita actually taking some turret hits. But he's tanky enough at this point that he can sustain through that. And that is 2 turrets and an inhibitor going in for red and even a kill. And this will surely be the end of this game. There's not really anything blue can do about it. They're missing a person. Red is not. And they have no turrets to fight behind now that that secondary turret is also gone down. Fizz going down. Everybody going down. Everybody except for Ambition. And they are chasing these kills down. That will be Ambition getting a few kills here to sustain his KDA a bit, but it's not enough. He still went 5-7-2, and that is a great victory for the red side. 13, well, we'll say almost 14,000 gold ahead, and just such a good job by them to constantly disengage using the Annie stuns, using the Janna knockups as well as the Janna ult, and of course that ult coming in from Bang, from the Tristana ult, also a fair good way to disengage. You have the Lee Sin kick, the ult there to also help you disengage whenever these fights were getting a little bit rough, and they used it perfectly. Very well played by Red Side. Definite GG's to them. On the other hand, you had a team that really had to snowball. You had Fiddlesticks, you had Zed, you had Fizz, all three champions that do fairly well when they snowball, and they got the early kills, but then they turned that into items, not wards, and they got caught out. Again, the disengagement that they could never go on to the people they wanted to. So many assassins, not enough ability to actually stay on a target. GG's all around. And it looks like this time the victors were actually T1S over the members of T1K. And that will do for this game. Thank you so much.